Coach Bruce Pearl continues to sweep up the competition, quite literally nabbing another huge transfer from the portal for the Auburn Tigers. Let's talk about who that is, the impact on the program going forward, and also want to hear your thoughts at the end. But before we do that, I want to welcome you back to the channel, whether you're a member of the Auburn family or a fan of another persuasion. This is the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here and on our podcast network may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the content. And thank you to members of our booster club like Linda Bird, who help produce videos like this. Auburn basketball fans have been sitting on pins and needles, waiting to see how we would replace arguably the greatest front court in Auburn basketball history, Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler. Well, one of the pieces of that puzzle is in place with Johni Broome, but the other piece, the big guy, the big man, who is it gonna be? Well, there are a lot of options out there, and thankfully now we have that answered with a new commitment to the Auburn Tigers. Johni Broome of Morehead State, now an Auburn Tiger obviously, has decided to be a part of the program going forward, looking to defend the SEC championship for the Tigers. His announcement was made via a live stream on Tipton Edits, where he decided between Florida and Auburn, which is pretty interesting now that Todd Golden, a former Bruce Pearl assistant, is the head coach down there now. More on that in just a little bit. Johni admitted and said as much on the live stream that it is a decision that he has wrestled with over the last few days and weeks, trying to decide between these two schools, but ultimately felt the fit was right for the Auburn Tigers and him to be together. Now let's talk about some of the facts that we know about him for the Auburn fans. He is one of the most coveted transfers out there right now, and especially big man wise. There's been some roles that need to be filled on other teams, and thankfully Johni chose us because we have those two gaping holes in Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler to fill, and he's going to complete that for us. Now, he's listed at 235 pounds, 6'11", so a little bit smaller than Walker Kessler, who he's assuming to be replacing, but still a big enough guy to have a pretty good presence down there in the paint. Now again, he comes from Morehead State, and we actually did play them this season and played Broome himself. He scored 12 points and a few rebounds against us, so it probably wasn't the most amazing performance then, but again, he was playing against Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith. There's not many people that did too well against them, maybe Miami. At Morehead State, he was named the Ohio Valley Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Does that sound familiar, Auburn fans? Maybe he can do something similar to a certain other player that he's replacing. He was one of the most valuable players of that conference, but obviously for his team as well. He played 2 years there, but he still has 3 years of eligibility left. Now, if he has an amazing year at Auburn, maybe he's gone after 1 year, but you at least know that you have some time in the bank with him if it lasts that long. Taking the news of his commitment to talk a little bit more high-level stuff about the state of the program right now, this is in reference to the recruiting class overall. Right now, 4 commitments in this class in a very solid, well spread out class. You've got Trey Donaldson, the point guard, small guard type of role. Chance Westry, the shooting guard, bigger guard type of role. You also got Johni Broome, who just decided to commit a few, weeks ago, almost a month ago now at this point, who's kind of a big man stretch forward position, and now your true center or big man has committed in Johni Broome. That is a solid class right there, if that's where it stands. Let's also talk about maybe why he chose Auburn over Florida, because that was who it was down to. He had a higher list than that and narrowed it down to Auburn and Florida. Well, 2 good programs to go to, probably 2 teams that really needed him. However, Auburn probably needed him just a little bit more. Auburn, obviously, as we've talked about a lot, had to replace Walker Kessler, and that is likely who he's going to be filling. And he'll do so nicely, being coveted as a defensive player, which is what the hallmark was for Kessler while he was here at Auburn. Now, why didn't he choose Florida? Well, it's probably because they still have Colin Castleton, who's going to be there and be the stud big man for them for quite some time. If this is a guy that's really wanting to step right into a role of being the big man, then he's going to have to come to Auburn, and that's ultimately what he decided to do. Obviously, don't know the guy, and there probably was more that went into that decision other than that, but that's kind of the way I felt it went. What this sets up now, though, is a very interesting dynamic, because as I addressed, the new head coach at Florida is Todd Golden, the former assistant coach for Auburn. And it's going to be pretty interesting watching the recruiting battles that's going to take place between Bruce Pearl and his protege going forward in the SEC. It's really hard to get a coaching tree going in basketball because, you don't have as many assistant coaches as you do in, say, football. But now this is kind of starting to develop. And if Wes Flanagan at one point moves off into the sunset and does something else besides be with Coach Bruce Pearl, You could have a true coaching tree spreading out from him that started and originated here at Auburn. And finally, what does it mean for us as Auburn fans and the program moving forward? As we already talked about, the needs have been addressed, and we can move forward with the departures of some of the other players such as Walker Kessler, Devin Cambridge, and Jabari Smith, knowing that we have everything that we need to move forward as a team next year. Now, there is technically one spot left. The question is, will it be filled by Coach Bruce Pearl? I'm not exactly certain that it will, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is as well. If somebody wants to come to Auburn, you take them, especially if they're highly coveted. You don't really say no unless there's just no way for you to have them as part of your program. The big name out there still, Julian Phillips. He was going to be a teammate of Yawan coming up this season at LSU if they had both remained there, and he's already taken a visit to Auburn. Maybe by the time you've watched this, that's resolved itself if we know he's coming to Auburn or he's going somewhere else. My guess is with Broome's commitment, that's made that less likely, but I don't know how less likely. I could be wrong, and we could have an incredible class if he decides to commit to Auburn. The other question is, will it be someone else that we haven't really paid a lot of attention to, another role that we need to fill? I don't know, it could be out there. I'm kind of leaning towards, though, we might leave that one open unless the right fit just comes available and have that spot available to maybe give a scholarship to a walk-on, as teams tend to do when they have the chance to do so. And Bruce seems really committed to guys like Jalen Williams and Dylan Cardwell for the efforts and the sacrifices they've made to have other big names come in and be part of the program. It seems like you want to bring another big name in so you can continue to commit more time and opportunities to them for the sacrifices that they have made. So that's my reaction to the commitment of Johni Broome. I want to know from you now in the comment section below. What do you think about all that? Do you think we're going to take one more player? Let me know down there. Let's keep the conversation going. If you enjoyed this type of content, please do help support it by smashing that like button. And if you want more from us, be sure to hit the subscribe along with the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. There's ways to help our content listed in the description of this video, such as becoming a channel member here by hitting the join button for $1 a month, or you can go to patreon.com/E2C network to join up on the Booster Club, starting at $1 a month and going up to different tiers for different perks that you can get for yourself. Thank you for tuning into the E2C network, where the Auburn family speaks. War Eagle.